Good morning, everyone. It's 8:30. I'll call today's meeting of the Clay County Board of Commissioners to order. The first item on the agenda today is an approval of the agenda. We do have an amended agenda that has been provided.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the amendment.
We have a motion offered to approve the amended agenda from
Second.
Commissioner Bear, a second from Commissioner Ebinger. Any further discussion? Discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried. Citizens to be heard today. Are there any citizens in the audience wishing to address the county board? Steve, have we had any online correspondence?
Madam Chair, we did receive 3 additional requests to have comments on the public hearing on the shotgun rifle zone. I'm speaking with Mr. Melton. Unfortunately, those were not able to be brought forward because the time for bringing forward information is closed.
Thank you. Follow up to that, many residents did reach out to the commissioners individually after the hearing, which is allowed, but again, no further public testimony would be offered. Any other folks wishing to be heard? Moving into the approval of the payment of bills and vouchers.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to pay the bills and vouchers.
Motion offered from Commissioner Bear to pay the bills and vouchers.
I'll second.
A second from Commissioner Krabanoff. Further discussion? Further discussion? Further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It carries. Minutes from April 7th, 2026 were included in the packet.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the minutes from April 7th, 2026.
A motion offered from Commissioner Ebinger.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Bear. Any further discussion? Further discussion? Further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The offer carries, or the motion carries. I'd like to go back quick to a moment, an item that we just approved in the amended agenda. Really grateful during the last week, we were able to receive a donation check from the Sabin Elmwood Fire Department in the amount of $750 to our Clay County Sheriff's Office for some work detail. Grateful for those options, not only for the work detail crew, but also organizations and entities throughout Clay County. Thank you to the Sabin Fire Department for that donation. Item 2, request approval for out-of-state travel. Good morning, Kimberly.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. I'm here today to request approval for out-of-state travel in May. I would be attending an educational symposium in Rock Island, Illinois, that's hosted by my land records software vendor. They would be helping fund some of the transportation, and the rest of the expenses would come out of my travel budget for the recorder's office.
Questions from the board?
One question.
Yes, Commissioner Bear.
You had this budgeted in your budget for last year?
Yes.
Then with that, I'll make a motion to approve this out-of-state travel for Kimberly.
Motion offered from Commissioner Bear, second from Commissioner Campbell to approve the request as presented. Further discussion? Further discussion? Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The request is granted. Item 3, Kimberly, is the request approval of expenses for the Lands Records Department.
Yes, so the Recorder's Compliance Committee met a few weeks ago, and we have recommended action for the board. The Recorder's Office was 100% compliance in 2025, so that means we're able to share expenses with some of the other land record departments per the statute. So we are proposing for the 2027 budget that we would use $105,000 from our compliance fund. $15,000 of that would go towards the maintenance for our tax system. $40,000 would go towards our corner remonumentation program. $37,350 would go towards information services for their online mapping and things that all of our land record departments uses. And then $12,650 towards the software maintenance for the assessor's office. So that brings a grand total of $105,000. So I would just be looking for a motion to approve these expenses, and that would go in the 2027 budget.
Thank you, Kimberly. This is another great example of your good oversight and controls that you have in place, making sure that we're in compliance 100% to benefit other areas of the county. Thanks.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Ebinger?
Yeah, I was part of the committee that met on this. It is a great source of funding for us, and it's a responsible use of those funds that comply with state law.
So in light of that, I would like to make a motion to approve $105,000 in expenses from the Records Compliance Fund for the Land Record Department for 2027.
A second.
Thank you, Commissioner Ebinger. A second from Commissioner Kravinoff. Discussion, Commissioner Campbell.
Thank you. Kimberly, how does this change from last year?
It is the same from last year. It's been that same 105,000 for a few years.
And it was the same for areas that we're spending it on as well?
Yes.
Thank you.
Additional questions? Additional questions? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. The request is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 5 today is our Social Services Department. I guess 4, sorry, didn't mean to skip. So we have the opportunity to approve a proclamation that is recognizing April 22nd as Administrative Professionals Day in Clay County.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Yes, I am requesting that we approve tomorrow, actually, as Administrative Professionals Day in Clay County. Our administrative professionals at social services are the steady force that helps keep our county government running each day. In social services, they coordinate communication, they manage records, they organize schedules, they assist citizens, and they handle the tiny little daily tasks that allow all of our other social workers and all of our other staff to serve and function effectively. Within social services, our administrative professionals play an especially critical role in supporting the work of our department. Our department is now at 152 FTEs, and we have 11 full-time office support specialists, one being a variable hour. So together, those staff support our entire department in our day-to-day operations and help ensure that we have smooth continuation of services across multiple floors of the building now. Our administrative professionals frequently serve as the first point of contact for residents seeking services. They greet individuals who are navigating complex or pretty stressful situations most often, and they're helping connect those folks with the right staff and the right services. They also ensure that information is shared accurately and efficiently. So recognizing Administrative Professionals Day provides an opportunity for the board to acknowledge the professionalism, dedication, and essential contributions of our staff that support the rest of our staff, strengthen operations, and help ensure that our citizens receive the services they need. So with that, I have attached proclamation, but I'm open to any questions.
Any questions for Quinn? Questions? Thank you for bringing this forward. I agree wholeheartedly with everything that you said. The board, if we can rotate through and read through the proclamation. The proclamation for Administrative Professionals Day, April 22nd, 2026.
Whereas Administrative Professionals Day is observed each year to honor the individuals whose administrative expertise supports the work of organizations and public institutions throughout the nation, and
Whereas Clay County administrative professionals provide essential support that enables county departments to function efficiently, ensuring that information flows accurately, operations remain organized, and services are delivered to residents in a timely and professional manner, and
Whereas these dedicated employees contribute daily through their knowledge, attention to detail, and commitment to public service, helping maintain the structure and coordination necessary for local government to serve the community, and
Whereas administrative professionals demonstrate professionalism, reliability, and adaptability while supporting coworkers and assisting citizens, and
Whereas the Clay County Board of Commissioners values the contributions of these employees and recognizes the important role they play in supporting the mission of county government.
Now therefore, be it proclaimed that the Clay County Board of Commissioners hereby recognizes April 22nd, 2026 as Administrative Professionals Day in Clay County and expresses its appreciation for the administrative professionals whose dedication and service strengthen the operations of county government and the well-being of our community.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Ebinger?
Just one notice on this. In addition to the great people we have working for Quinn, we've got a number of them throughout the entire county staff, including Sarah, who keeps the wheels on around here for us and for Steve. And we'd be remiss not to mention her.
Madam Chair, I move the proclamation.
A motion offered from Commissioner Campbell to approve the proclamation, a second from
Second.
Commissioner Bear did say it right after, but certainly of note is Commissioner Ebinger's comments. Sarah keeps the wheels on definitely for all of us, so we're grateful. Thank you. Any further discussion? Further discussion? All those in favor of the proclamation signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried. Now we'll move into the annual department update that you have for the Financial Services Division, Quinn. We have Ms. Amundson and Ms. Wooderick.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Yes, this is another agenda item where I will just do introductions and then keep my mouth shut for the rest of the time. So we've got Michaela Wooderick and Karen Amundson here to speak to our Financial Services Division. Karen, I'll kick it over to you.
Michaela and I decided to change things up a little bit this year, and instead of just data, we decided to give you a day in the life. So I want to walk you through a normal day, not a bad day, not a crisis, just a normal day in the life of an eligibility worker. So the first task of the day, successfully logging into everything. If all systems load on the first try, it's already a good day. If we don't log into the systems periodically, we get kicked out. And then we'll need to contact our security liaison to request access again. This can take anywhere from a few minutes to a few days, depending on the system. This is what's waiting, before they've had a chance to even settle in for the day. Each item up there represents a client seeking support, often with time-sensitive needs. Once they get logged into the systems, they'll organize their day by prioritizing the tasks listed. While they're doing this, they may have clients in the lobby waiting to be seen. And this is even before they've opened a case. In their first application, immediately having questions. Applications reflect real-life situations that don't always fit neatly into policy categories. Eligibility workers scan 15 to 20 pages of the application, checking for completeness, already making eligibility decisions in their head. They will often go into Maxis, MMIS, Prison, maybe MEC squared and SMI. And remember, none of these talk to each other. They review the verifications received and realize that, for instance, the pay stubs don't match what's reported. Now they're calculating manually to determine if the client could be expedited or even eligible. And this is where the day becomes unplanned and reactive to real-life needs. Getting phone calls, front desk questions, emails marked urgent. We request meetings, and they're always willing to help their coworkers. And as I stated, we like to say our systems don't talk to each other. They don't even acknowledge each other. We're asking staff to be accurate in systems that are not designed for accuracy or integrated with one another.
Can I go back really quick?
Yep.
One.
Yep.
This is the screen in which we are trying to tell your story. So I just want to give huge gratitude for providing this. But for the public watching, you're a Financial Services Division. But if you look in the systems reality, not addressing the fact that these systems don't talk to each other is contributing to high error risks in which counties are then on the hook for huge pieces. So as we continue, I testified last week on this exactly and had a PRISM question that I couldn't answer, so I should have had you. But this is what we're talking about. We have to, in order to implement the services that the state is having for us to do, we have to have systems that talk to each other. It's like yesterday or last week at the Capitol, it was like going to an airport and being on the Delta terminal and needing to get it to American Airlines, and there literally is no way to do that. So thank you for dealing with this craziness. I'm hopeful we can address this for you, but I just want the public to see the reality is if this doesn't get addressed, it will continue to see high error risk.
Can I just Thank you. Every taxpayer in Clay County should be watching this, or if that are watching this, and should understand this, because every taxpayer in Clay County should be advocating for the corrections that we want done here. Because this is a clear case of us being able to eliminate a lot of duplication and time spent doubling up on areas we don't need to be doubling up on. So this is one area, whether you're right, left, I don't care, you should be advocating in favor of this legislation being done. Thank you.
Thank you. I, again, didn't want to disrupt your presentation, but
no,
you are
thank you. I
speaking the
appreciate
language that we all need to hear, so thank you.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Lunch often becomes a time to catch up rather than fully step away. Breaks are encouraged, but our staff are dedicated, so lunch is often not when they disconnect. And the interviews. This is where policy meets real life, and real life does not follow policy. Clients are navigating complex and stressful situations, and we can conduct interviews which can take anywhere from a half an hour to an hour and a half, depending on the programs applied for and the complexity of the household. Conversations often involve helping people understand programs during times of uncertainty. And case processing. This is the part everyone thinks is data entry, and it's actually the most complex part of the job. Before anything is entered, decisions are already being made. What income counts? Which program rules apply? Is this verified or questionable? Does this trigger expedited? They're not even entering data yet. They're making eligibility decisions. Now let's talk real life, which is messy, and try to make it fit into very rigid systems. For instance, pay stubs that don't line up, verifications that conflict, household situations that don't fit clean categories. The system doesn't adjust to reality. The worker has to. Now comes data entry, but it's not one system. And again, none of these systems carry information forward, and a lot of what we do is not automated. We manually average income, calculate anticipated future income, and determine eligibility periods. Two workers can look at the same case and have to justify how they got the same result. Then we document everything. We explain why decisions were made, what was verified, and what is still pending, if anything. These case notes have to stand up in court, months and maybe even years later, by someone who maybe wasn't part of the case, and maybe they're not even working for the county anymore. So in reality, case processing is actually decision-making, interpretation, translation, data entry, and legal documentation. This is where accuracy is won or lost. And our average processing time. This slide demonstrates the average processing time required for each step of just one application. When these steps are combined, each application can take several hours of staff time depending on complexity. Our eligibility workers typically receive between 2 to 8 applications per day on any given day. Even at that range, the workload can quickly exceed the hours available in a standard workday. For example, on higher volume days, the total processing time can add up to 20 to 30 hours of work in a single day. And that's simply not achievable within an 8-hour workday. Our staff work efficiently and are committed to keeping up, but when incoming work exceeds capacity, a backlog is unavoidable. This slide highlights that the challenge is not effort, it's capacity. Each step reflects careful work to ensure accuracy for the people we serve and the taxpayers. And our work never stops, layering. This is a part of the day where new work doesn't replace old work. It stacks on top of it. Dails are tasks that require action. They're not optional. They're alerts for verifications, deadlines that impact eligibility, things that must be worked on or we risk errors. These don't wait until you're done with your current cases. Tickles are tasks we set to come back to, and they always come back. They're follow-ups on pending verifications and time-sensitive actions. Yesterday's work becomes today's interruption. While we're working applications, existing cases are changing, such as income changes, household changes. It's all information that affects eligibility. Every change has to be reviewed, verified, and often rebudgeted at the same time. Clients' needs pop up throughout the day and require timely response. So while one case is being processed, there are multiple other cases demanding attention. This is a part of the day where staff are doing complex, ever-evolving work, applying policy, analyzing information, and making informed decisions that require time, focus, and sustained attention.
If I might go back to that one as well.
Yep.
These, well, one, I am overwhelmed with what staff is dealing with. So just know that I really appreciate that they're continuing to push forward in addressing the needs of the people that they're working with while they're working with this. But this is the part that I think is really important. Our board understands it, but I want folks watching to maybe understand a little further. These system-driven deadlines, when we're talking about mandates in terms of when folks, the deadlines in which you have to process through all of these, counties are talking about how do we triage maybe wait lists, or how do we figure out different ways to address what the workload is because of the significant cost for administration with new programs that are coming on. That's the part in which counties can't. I mean, we can't do those wait lists. We can't get to it as we get to it. We can't staff to a different level, because then that not meeting those deadlines contributes to error rates even further. So you're kind of in this wheel of purgatory, really, and how do you best address the needs of the people by dealing with these systems that are really hindering the work to actually deal with people. So it has nothing to do, I don't really think, with the financial piece as much as it does the systems that are not enabling us to do the work to the highest efficiency. Is that a fair? Okay, thank you.
Yes. Sorry. So now let's talk about what happens over time working in this kind of environment. When every task requires decision-making all day across multiple systems, that creates a high level of mental load. At any given moment, they're deciding who needs help right now, what's expedited, what will cause an error, what can wait, and they're expected to get that right every time. There isn't a lot of built-in space to pause and reset. That kind of cognitive fatigue doesn't show up all at once. It builds over time. Accuracy is still expected, and it should be. But we're asking for that accuracy in an environment that systemically makes the work more complex. So when challenges show up, it's often less about individual performance and more about the conditions the work is happening in. Over time, that can look a few different ways. Sometimes it means work slows down because staff are being careful and double checking to get it right. Sometimes it means hesitation or second guessing, which leads to delays. And sometimes when volume is extra high, it can lead to rushing just to keep pace, which is where errors are more likely to happen. The opportunity at hand isn't about changing the people doing the work. It's about improving the conditions around them so they can do it at their best. This is where your advocacy has really mattered. We know there's been tremendous amount of effort put forth around system modernization. That work directly connects to what you've heard here today. Modernized, integrated systems are one of the clearest ways to reduce complexity, improve accuracy, and allow staff to focus more on their time on serving our residents instead of navigating systems and sitting behind a computer screen. Because this isn't about lowering expectations, it's about building an environment where these expectations are realistic, sustainable, and consistently achievable. I want to briefly touch on our role in supporting program integrity, knowing that Sandy will walk you through the fraud investigation side in more detail next week. Our eligibility workers are often the first point of contact. As they review applications and verifications, they're also watching for inconsistencies or information that doesn't pass the smell test. In 2025, our staff submitted 711 referrals to the Fraud and Collections Unit. This is where our role ends and theirs begins. They take those referrals and conduct the full investigation and any necessary recovery actions. This partnership ensures that program integrity starts at the front end while allowing specialized staff to handle the investigative process. Every referral represents careful review and accountability at the eligibility level.
Can we go back to that one really quickly?
Yep.
In regards to those 711 referrals submitted, one, kudos to staff for identifying those pieces and referring. Is there any circle back to our staff? Once it's out of our hands and it goes to the state, are we able to identify what was followed up on, what may be filtered out?
So those fraud referrals actually go to our 2 fraud investigators in Clay County.
Got it.
Yep, 2 investigators in Sandy's unit. A lot of what they do is fraud prevention. So if information is submitted on the application before someone receives benefits, our fraud staff will look into that before a single dollar would go out in a program benefit and verify that information to ensure. Doesn't necessarily mean 711 cases of fraud occurred, but just where maybe it doesn't match up or it doesn't pass the smell test or we have concerns that it doesn't match up, we will have the fraud investigators go verify before any benefits are essentially.
And I may be misunderstood. I thought I heard, when you said that's beyond us, I was thinking us as county, not us as department. And we've certainly heard from Sandy and her department on all of the great work they've had there. Sorry.
And I did have to throw some statistics in and give our staff kudos because they do an amazing job. In 2025, the adult and family teams, consisting of 2 leads and 16 eligibility workers, processed 7,250 applications, 5,134 renewals, 928 change report forms, 49,530 verifications for public assistance forms, totaling 62,842 total forms. And you've likely seen and heard about SNAP error rates in the news recently. These rates measure payment accuracy, not fraud, but how complex eligibility rules are applied in real situations. Nationally, the error rate is about 6%. In Minnesota, it's closer to 9%, which is why there's increased attention right now. Our team's error rate is 1.64%, and that's while processing nearly 65,000 documents this year, each one requiring careful review, verification, and decision-making. So this isn't just strong performance, it's exceptional accuracy in high-pressure, high-volume environment. This reflects the consistency, coaching, and attention to detail our staff bring every day. It's not about perfection, it's about doing the work thoughtfully and getting it right for the people we serve. Thank you for taking the time to listen today and for your ongoing support. We truly appreciate the opportunity to share the realities of this work and the impact it has on both our staff and the county we serve.
Thank you for the presentation. Commissioner Campbell does have a question before we turn.
Yeah, that last little chart that you show there says a lot. You know, for the amount of documents that you process and your people go through, to have an error rate of 1.64% is really quite remarkable. You didn't say in here, but it's shaded, but in Minnesota, the average is 9%,
Yes,
and in nationwide, it's 6%.
correct,
And Clay County is at 1.64.
correct.
So that's, hats off to your whole department for the work that they do. It's excellent.
Thank you. I might really quickly, and then we'll go to 2 other commissioners. I testified on that exactly, the data that you provided, so thanks for getting that. Can you really quickly talk about how counties that have error rates as low as we might are actually getting penalized in a way that counties with 10 to 15 times the error rate are?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the frustrating part about the HR one, the big beautiful bill, and the impacts of how it's going to impact Minnesota counties. Right now, the fiscal penalty for error rate is just applied to the state. If the state doesn't otherwise define it, it's going to be broken out as a total dollar amount, and it's based on a percentage of the amount of SNAP benefit that is given to the residents in the community. So for example, I believe in 2025, we provided about $15 million in SNAP benefits to our citizens. The error rate will be a percentage based on the state's overall error rate of what that is. So for example, where the state currently sits in terms of their statewide error rate, the state of Minnesota would owe 10% of the SNAP payments to the federal government. And that 10% would just apply to your county's payments that went out. That's a scary, scary number to me. That's $1.5 million that Clay County would be responsible for in regards to the fiscal penalty under the big beautiful bill, just for the 10% of the benefit that we provided to the citizens. However, if you have an error rate that's below, I think it's 5%, there would be no fiscal penalty to the federal government. So in my opinion, we're at 1.64%. Our performance at the county level would justify $0 in fiscal penalty because we're not making those payment errors. However, the way that it's currently set in the state is they're not taking into account individual county performance. They're just saying that error rate percentage applies to all counties and you pay your fair share. So because we're doing a good job, we would actually have $1.5 million worth of fiscal penalty when another county might have a 14% error rate, which is driving up the state average. It's very frustrating to not take individual county performance into account with that calculation.
And to unpack that a little bit more, that 1.64% error rate the equivalency is $59 in benefit erroneously identified. That's not necessarily, that doesn't mean that $59 extra, that could be an underpayment of benefit to, correct?
Correct, yes.
So
And that even if it's a $59 overpayment, that doesn't mean that at the end of the day, we didn't also recapture. When overpayments go out, we identify them, we find them, and then we fix them. So if we mistakenly gave you $59 last month, we would either take $59 out next month, or if that's not feasible given your situation, we might take $10 out until we've recouped the total $59.
Commissioner Ebinger and then Kravinoff.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I want to amplify something Commissioner Campbell said. This is not a right, left, or center issue. This is simply good governance. And I think we have it here. We're aware of, and I think you and your staff, Quinn, are aware that this commission is very cognizant of the shortcomings that we've got with the system that's been inflicted on us up to this point. I've seen something that you seldom see in local government. It happened with the floods. It happened with some other crises. We got two commissioners that have gone up to the state capitol and really applied themselves on a lot of issues, this being one of them. I think the expertise our chair speaks of with this is simply because she's become extremely familiar with what's going on. She's working with people on both sides of the aisle to try and address it, as is the AMC, the Association of Minnesota Counties. This is one of the prime issues that we've got for this legislative agenda. None of us up here are able to deal with the issues that we have to deal with without getting good information from competent staff, and that's what you've got. I'm married to a social worker. The people that are working these want to manage cases and they want to help people. They don't want to sit there and be a data entry clerk for 2/3 of their shift. We hear you. If we could change it right now, we would. We've got people that are making a real effort to work across the political turmoil you have in the Capitol right now to try to get this addressed as an issue that's affecting the entire state. I just want you to know the information you've provided them and us is being well used.
Commissioner Kravinoff?
Yeah, thank you. So two things. Back to the error rates, the 1.64. In the reforms that DHS is trying to do, are they are they even interested in their work to decrease error, give any how do I say it, focus to areas that are with higher rates, say up at 8 or 9, and allow the people at 1.64 to keep doing their good work?
I guess I don't know specifically, Commissioner Krabenhoft. You know, that said, I think a lot of the times, I have to be really honest, prior to this role, I was completely ignorant in the financial services world, and these two have completely brought me on board and given me accurate information as well to fully understand. And I think a lot of the issues actually come from the complexity of the policy decisions that are made. So I think the state actually needs to look at their policies and make some decisions about how you can't have this and this count, because they're creating errors. So I think a lot of it, again, just like you said, the staff that we have, they don't want to sit behind a computer screen all day. They want to help people. So the more they're sitting behind a computer screen trying to figure out, is it this or is it that, they're being less fulfilled in their daily job, and we're risking more errors. So I don't know if DHS is working on fixing that, but I
Just curious if it was in the conversation. Okay, and then the other thing, back to the big, beautiful bill. That requires 2 times a year now for checking eligibility. Is that the correct word?
Yeah, that will be for healthcare MA expansion population.
Okay,
Yes, that-
which you're going to get into? Okay, I want to hear more about that too.
You bet.
Commissioner Campbell had asked me a question in regards to specifically what bills we're tracking for the modernization pieces. There are a couple different ones, which is why I was gone last week. Tuesday morning, I testified on the Frederick bill that is on the House side, 4840. And then the Senate companion bill for that is Senate File 4982. That is to allow a lease purchase agreement for the sale and issuance of that to replace the bond or the Maxis system. And then Senate File 4612 is the vehicle bill, the Wickland bill that we testified also on, that has the Maxis component in it, but it also has the Medicaid pieces that is different from this conversation, but that's where we're tracking. Okay. All right. Any questions? Otherwise, Michaela.
Good morning. I'm excited to share about our healthcare programs today. Our current team structure, we have 15 individuals on the healthcare team, including myself. We have a lead worker, and then our teams are split into the programs that they work. So we have 6 eligibility workers working in the METS system on those healthcare programs. We have 3 eligibility workers doing the Maxis healthcare system, and 3 eligibility workers doing the programs for individuals over 65. And then we have a case aide that helps us by supporting the entire team. So medical assistance is commonly misunderstood in how intertwined it is to our communities and our individuals. It is more than just health insurance, right? It is the entry point to many services that allow people to remain safe in their homes, cared for, and in their communities. It connects residents to health coverage, long-term care, mental health treatment, substance use services, waivered supports, home services, and care coordination. It's especially crucial for our vulnerable residents, including older individuals, people with disabilities, children. When MA works well, it helps people avoid unnecessary hospitalization or placement in institutions. It matters economically because these services support providers, jobs, and our community. Ultimately, MA is about the human impact and the system impact, and at its core, medical assistance helps people receive the right care in the right setting at the right time, while also strengthening systems and communities that surround them. Here you can see a snapshot of our current caseloads in Clay County and the relevance to our community here. Our teams manage approximately 9,361 cases across 3 medical assistance areas. The broader county impact is even larger. So right now, approximately 16,000 individuals in Clay County are on some type of a healthcare program with us. So that's nearly 1 in 4 residents, about 23.7%. So very relevant here with our community and has a big impact in Clay County. Next, I'd like to talk about how Clay County compares to some peer counties. Specifically today, I'll be including Clay County, Otter Tail County, Crow Wing County, and Candy Ojai County. We found that they are really fair and accurate comparables to Clay County in caseload sizes and relevance. So what you'll see here is that our total caseload sizes, specifically for the METS programs, are the highest amongst our peers. And what also stands out, however, is that our individual caseloads per worker are extremely high. So Clay is at 1,037 cases per worker, while other counties are ranging in the 500s. So you can see that Clay County is operating in a much leaner staffing model than others, and it helps really just illustrate the pressure that our staff are under, right? Especially tying in the system issues that Karen was highlighting in her presentation. So these comparisons are really helpful to think about as we picture long-term sustainability for our staff and our programs, our service expectations that we like to continue offering, and future staffing needs to maintain our level of timeliness and quality of work. So also same comparisons here in our long-term care or our over 65 population, which is where you'll see a lot of individuals that are in the facilities, care facilities, or needing very complex, those cases are much more complex because they are on multiple programs at the same time. So they will be on, cash, SNAP, and, healthcare benefits and others. So what you'll see here is Clay County may not have the highest overall number of long-term cases. We are among the highest in the comparison groups for cases per worker. 356 is incredibly high as a caseload for a long-term care worker. And they do very, very strong work, and we would like to maintain that quality and the great service that our clients are getting from our staff. So we really are keeping a finger on the pulse with this demographic and making sure to keep in mind our staffing needs to keep the workload sustainable. Another program I'd like to highlight today is our County Burial Assistance Program. So this is one of the final safety net programs that we offer to families. When a resident passes away without resources or without another responsible source of payment, the county may provide assistance in paying for a cremation or a burial. This work is complex as it's tied to policy and procedure and state statute, but it's also deeply human. We want our individuals to have that dignity, and we're dealing with families at a very, very difficult time. And while it may not be one of our largest programs by volume, it carries a lot of sensitivity and a lot of importance. It ensures that individuals are treated with dignity at the end of their life while also supporting, these families during this time of loss. And at the same time, as county burial assistance is directly paid by our taxpayers, we have to be very, very mindful of our fiscal responsibility here and the costs associated with these county burials. And so because of that, we work very closely and frequently, consistently reviewing state statutes and getting advice from county attorney's office and just making sure that we are following state statute while also being as mindful as we possibly can with the dollars that are being spent. And so because of that, it feels like we're constantly evaluating, tracking numbers, and just kind of seeing how we can make it the most efficient, but also keep it human.
Question from Commissioner
Just real
Kavanaugh.
quick, how many burials did Clay County have last year?
Yeah, last year, 2025, we had 56 burials. 2024, we had 59, so it seems to be kind of around that number.
Thank you.
So glad that you brought that up, because we do see, as you all know, Clay County is one of the fastest growing counties in population, right, in the state. And so along with that, our 65-plus population is rapidly growing as well and is projected to continue growing. And so what this is going to mean for us specifically is more need for medical assistance programs and long-term care services. Because of this demographic change. So specifically the 75 and older and the 85 and older populations, which is where you'll see more increased services needed, more admittance into care facilities, and more just high support services will be needed. And then on top of that, as time goes on, we are seeing more and more adults entering retirement with limited resources. People do not have assets like they used to. They do not have that financial means. 40% of individuals do not have enough in retirement to sustain their current lifestyle. So that is very alarming and is a good number to show the need for these programs moving forward, right? And it's just going to continue growing. And so it's going to give us pressure in the county burial aspect, but also on the medical assistance programs. Next, I'd like to share with you about an organization called MAFIS. MAFIS is the Minnesota Association of Financial Assistance Supervisors. We have 120 members as a part of that association, and actually as of yesterday, 74 county agencies. We had Ramsey join us yesterday. So we are only missing 5 county agencies in our organization, which we hope to gain their membership soon. But what we do is every month we will meet with members from DCYF or DHS, state staff, and we will have many, many conversations revolving around, advocacy for our programs and our clients and our counties, or getting that first look into upcoming changes, good discussion with state staff. It's just a great opportunity to be in the know of what's coming our way so we can prepare. And then it's also a fantastic space for networking and professional development for our members.
Before we move to the next slide, Michaela was nominated as president of MAFIS. So it's great to see that Clay County is represented as really seen as a leadership role across the state in financial services. So I don't know if she was going to say it, so I'm going to say it for her.
Congratulations. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
putting your name out there. That's really an asset for Clay County.
Thank you. It was an honor to be nominated and elected, and I'm just so thrilled to be in the position and drive the organization forward for all of us.
Fantastic.
So on,
Rabinoff has a
yeah,
comment.
go ahead.
Want to go back to my question
Yes.
about 2 eligibilities or a year? And from you, now that just started in 26, is that correct?
Not yet.
Oh, it's 27. How do you expect that to put pressure on what you're doing now, and kind of initially as you plan for that, where do you see it going?
Yeah, absolutely. Could you go to the next slide? So absolutely, HR 1, we have 2 big things on the horizon. HR 1 changes, big beautiful bill changes, and then we also have a system change coming that I will speak to as well. But HR 1 first, so that will be our expansion population that's impacted by that. They'll be impacted by both the 6-month reviews now instead of an annual review, and they will have those work requirements or community engagement requirements. So that population for Clay County right now is approximately 2,551 individuals. And rough calculations that we've been doing for the renewal piece of it is we're looking that it's going to add around 40, 45 hours per month in doing those additional renewals. So definitely we're going to see a big workload increase there.
And along the way, they're being, every month they're checking in with their income verifications, are they not?
We have periodic data matches that run in the background with their social security numbers. So if they apply, start working at a job, then it will flag in our system and it will send out they call it a discrepancy notice, where the client will then need to resolve that with us, or then their case could close. So definitely, it's not just, once you're on, you're
Right.
you're
No,
good. There's
right.
that frequent checking. Yeah, so that's
How
definitely
will 2 times a year help over 1?
It would be an overall help to see the overall household composition and changes, right? So we'd be checking in more frequently on more than just income, assets. Did you get married? Did your children move out? Are you no longer claiming someone as a tax dependent, which would change your household size and your income level or limit? So it would definitely get us checking in on the households more frequently.
Okay, thank you for that.
Absolutely. So for the HR1 changes, we're looking for an increase in workload and administrative work, absolutely, and time sensitive, right? Because renewals have to be processed by a certain date in the month. So some more pressure on our staff there. And then additionally is the Quest project. Now the Quest project is something that some money was given from the federal government to the state of Minnesota specifically to fund a program for private health plans. So not something that the public does, but right now it's all in one system. And so when there is an overlap of public and private, we do assist in that work sometimes. So this Quest system, or it's not the system name, the project will be creating a system for only those private plans to migrate off of our METS system. Now that's coming up here in June. So we've been preparing for that. We've been going through our trainings for that because there is going to be an impact to our staff with this as well, of course, because we will be seeing an increase in tasks and applications coming in, because if whatever this system that Quest will deem, if they determine that they may be eligible for public programs, we'll be sent the application. So it will be an increase there. Or if they have changes that would somehow interface with our individuals, we'll have an increase there. And what we've been told from the state is that those tasks that will be coming over from this new system must be worked immediately, as soon as we can. So we're already making changes in the way that we do our workflow to try to have a higher priority for those tasks, but unfortunately that means then that applications and renewals will have to kind of balance that, right? So those where we would maybe spending the time focusing solely on the applications and renewals, well, now we have another thing that we were told is top priority sneaking in. So we're making a couple changes with our workflow now to solidify before this new system rolls out.
All right, thank you for the presentation. I feel like a lot of the questions and comments we had in the first part of the presentation certainly applies to some of the issues and components you're working with as well. Additional questions from the board?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Campbell.
I pulled this one out because I'm going to keep this when I talk to this board some more about our budget and what it means to seniors. There's also another story here. And that's the affordability of people being able to stay in their homes. Thank you.
Absolutely, and without medical assistance, there would be a lot more pressure on our first responders and our emergency personnel as well, which puts more pressure on our entire community, right? So, thank you.
Thank you. Quinn, any closing comments?
Really, the only thing I'd like to say is when you heard some of the data behind how we're measured and the performance that exists, you heard, I don't know what your takeaways are. My takeaways are we ask our eligibility workers to do a lot with what they're given. Their caseloads are high. They've always been high, and yet they do a phenomenal job. I couldn't be more proud of our eligibility worker staff downstairs, nor with these two right here. One of the things I took away from this is the leadership that we have in these two is phenomenal, and they really help guide really difficult and complex and sometimes bash my head against the wall silliness when it comes to the systems that they have to operate in. So I couldn't be more proud of them as well. Thank you so much today.
Thank you, you guys. Item 6 today, we will move into the request approval of the rate increases to the school nurse contracts. We have our Public Health Director, Jessica Mickelson. Ms. Beer is also here.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Yes, we have 2 agenda items for you today. We'll start with our school nurse contract. So this is a regular visit to this commission to get these contracts updated. So currently, Clay County Public Health provides school nursing at 2 school districts. We are out at DGF. We have 2 full-time nurses there, and then we're also at Ullin Hitterdal 2 times a month. So this is just the regular review of getting these contracts updated. As you can see, we are proposing a 3% annual increase for each of the upcoming school years.
Ms. Mickelson, I think it's important also to highlight the fact that the county is subsidizing some of the cost to that. Going back to Commissioner Campbell's comments on budgets and how it's affecting our residents, making sure that the school district didn't have the full shift of what the cost is, correct?
That is absolutely correct. So the cost per hour for us to have these nurses out at the schools is $66.75 an hour. What we are proposing in our 3% increase is to increase from the $50 per hour that we were at for this current school year and move that to $51.50 for the 26-27 school year, and then an additional 3% increase for the 27-28 school year to increase that to $53.05.
Madam Chair, I have a question. We're not even gonna keep up with COLA on that. That's way too low, I believe. I don't think the whole county should be subsidizing the school districts. I think we should be at the 66.75.
To address
And then
that,
the 3% on
Commissioner,
top of that every year.
Do you want to talk about the negotiation with that and how that?
well, if I included in my presentation here the agenda item, the historical rates. So just historically, we have not been keeping up with the actual cost to have these staff and these nurses out there. We feel it's a vital community service that the county is providing. We would be willing to really work with any of the school districts, and we have had more school districts contracted with Clay County Public Health previously, but for one reason or another, those school districts have chosen to go a different route. Essentially, primarily, they've hired their own nursing staff. But we feel that it's a really important service. It keeps the county really engaged and involved with these smaller school districts, and it allows us to provide quite a bit of support. And we don't really know what those nursing services would look like if there wasn't somewhat of a subsidy provided by the county to them. And partially, too, it's the historical rates. If we came in and said, okay, we're going to start charging you the $66.75, I don't believe that either school district would renew the contract with us.
But maybe to shed a little light to that too, and I really appreciate Commissioner Bear's comments. It's similar to, though, how we deal with the school resource officers that are in, the sheriff's office has in those schools. I'm fairly certain there is a subsidy component to that as well, because there are off-calendar days of school that there's still county responsibilities, correct? I mean, they're still county employees when school's not in session.
Yes.
That's a piece. But, I think it's important as we continue to discuss, there are increases that we are seeing, and what the contract rate historically has not kept up with what the cost is.
Yeah. And you can see historically, we've not done an annual increase, and so we're hoping by now, kind of having this initial conversation with the school districts, kind of preparing them that they may be seeing a more frequent increase. And I mean, we're certainly willing to have that discussion with the superintendents.
I certainly don't think, Madam Chair, that 3% is enough.
Well,
You
I was
are
just gonna say
six,
we
no,
did
no,
bring this to
well,
Pam,
I just
but-
want to say, you're 6 months in. I think it's, certainly you're hearing the feedback and the comments. Yeah, I appreciate that there haven't been increases and you're proposing an increase, trying to figure out where to be. But I think you've also heard from the board that there are concerns on what is the appropriate threshold. Commissioner Campbell?
Yeah, again, it's still a total cost that's gonna go on to the taxpayers, whether some of it's county and one of it's school district. It goes to what we'll even talk about later on some of these, other public health fees that we charge. I think the overall percentage that the school district is paying to the total value, what they're paying, maybe 80%? I haven't done the math, but I'm guessing that's probably 80% that they're paying of
Maybe a
of
little
that
bit,
service,
yeah.
and we're subsidizing the 20. But part of that portion that we're subsidizing is the public expects that from the public health department, not from the school district. So there's that component of it as well, that, if we're gonna just say, let the school districts do it on their own, why have a public health department?
I mean, essentially, it would eliminate the school nursing portion of our.
Yeah, I mean, so I think, and sometimes maybe some of the things that a school nurse might find within a school district might be something that's caught early that's preventing from getting worse throughout the entire community. Right?
Yes, and
Isn't that-
Liz
isn't that a
provides a
possibility?
lot of oversight and support to the nurses. And we also have a medical director that we're contracted with that we can reach out to. So it's a lot more than just the day-to-day supports that are provided within the school. There's kind of a community of support that these nurses provide in those buildings.
And keep in mind, whatever a school district has for an expense, it goes to all taxpayers within that school district boundary. Whether you have kids in school or you don't have kids in school, it's all still the same. So I think, we were talking about this in PIC, and, we weren't having these 3% every year for probably 10 years. And so at least it's by having this 3%, we're probably keeping it close to always being at that maybe 80-20 cost school district versus county. And I say 80-20 because I'm just throwing that number out, but it shouldn't change a lot.
Commissioner Baird, do you have anything else?
Madam Chair, I don't think anybody's talking about not having this program in the schools. I'm just saying we need to bring that price closer to what reality is on what it actually costs us and what we're subsidizing the school districts. Holly School has a nurse in it. Barnesville, I'm pretty sure, has a nurse in it. Moorhead has nurses in them. We're not subsidizing those school districts with their nursing system. This we are. We're subsidizing Ulen-Hitterdal, and we're subsidizing DGF. And when you subsidize it, the whole county pays for it. Moorhead residents are paying for DGF. Barnesville residents are paying for DGF. Holly residents are paying for DGF. I would like to see it, 3% is not enough.
I think those comments are certainly well intended, and they certainly make sense. The challenging part is that as we're trying to figure out how to be the best partners, you've had the opportunity to discuss with the school districts. I think we're asking for maybe more information on how, if it is to that full number, and then how does that affect what services are able to be provided. I mean, it does go into, we're seeing massive cuts to some of our school districts because of their ability to pay for pieces. So I think it is definitely a delicate balance in how we move forward. I think that with new leadership, we are seeing the intent to address what that full need is. And I would like to also lean into how our agreements with our school resource officers work as well, because Moorhead is paying for Moorhead school resource officers. Is it 100%? That's not to you, but, you know, a conversation that over the next budget cycle, bringing in the sheriff to discuss that component. Commissioner Kavanaugh?
Yeah, like to hear a little background. So the 3 districts that are not part of this, what's the history there? When did they pull out? Why did they pull out? Does anybody know?
So speaking to Holly, we did hire a public health nurse as a school nurse, and I don't know what year it was, but Holly did choose to hire that nurse at the school. And prior to that, the same thing happened in Barnesville. So this would have been in the last, 10, 15 years that this would have happened. And Moorhead has always had their own nurses. We have never hired nurses for Moorhead. I don't know the history on that.
Do we know is there a reason why, do you think?
I wasn't in a supervisor role at that time, so I
Okay.
am unsure
Okay.
what the reason was for them to do that.
We could certainly reach out and.
Well, I think it'd be important to our conversation.
I agree. As we move into budget discussions, as the school districts move into budget discussions, I know you weren't prepared to have the historical on all of it, and giving you the opportunity to provide that information so that we can further dissect it is important. Commissioner Campbell?
Madam Chair, one thing we need to keep in mind when we're doing these things is the school districts set their budgets.
Yes.
They have a different they're on a fiscal year that I believe is July 1. And, and we're on a calendar year, so we need to let them know.
We need to get-
Because they're about to set their budget for the 2027 year. We don't have till December to make this change, because it wouldn't fit in their budget then. So, this is a good conversation. I think maybe part of the discussion that should be had with these school districts that do contract with us is to, and I think we talked about that in PIC, to let them know that we are subsidizing them, and then maybe we can find what would happen if we were to go to the full rate. What would you do? I think those are important conversations to have. But in the meantime, I think these school districts in particular want to know about signing a contract now,
Yes.
right?
Thank you. I think we have enough information to act on what's before us today. I appreciate all of the feedback. We do have to be really cognizant and aware of the conversation about subsidizing others. The argument of someone who lives and pays property tax but only takes the bus system, for instance, could argue that they're subsidizing the payments in their property taxes for a transportation system and roads that they don't utilize at all. So that's part of the conversation on what the benefit of the public health department is to the county as a whole, how we're able to help mitigate and identify some issues early on. But certainly all of the comments are welcome today, and I think we can make decisions moving forward.
Madam Chair, were you guys, as I mentioned, this was brought up to PIC, and the recommendation was to go with these rates for 2027, 2028?
2026 school year.
26, 27.
7 and 28.
So I would move the approved 3% rate that was, or move a 3% rate increase for school years as recommended by.
Okay, we have a motion offered that represents the memo provided to the board,
I'll second.
and a second from Commissioner Kravanaugh. Further questions, comments?
Just one further comment.
Commissioner Bear?
That's not even meeting COLA for the next 2 years with the contracts we signed. I mean, it should be at least 4 or 5%. If we want to keep up with COLA, at least.
Fair point. Other discussion? Again, this is not 100%, this employee doesn't 100% of a calendar year work for the school districts, correct?
That
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Carried. Item 7 is the request approval to increase the non-delegated environmental health fees. We have Jessica with us again on this one, and then our public health, Mr. Severson.
Yes, hi. All right, thank you, Kent. So before you is a proposal to increase the environmental health non-delegated fees imposed by the Environmental Health Department. As you can see from the proposal before you, these fees have not been addressed in over 30 years. These have been pretty much set as is since the 1990s. So we determined it was probably time to take a look at them. So there is a graph before you with each of the services, what the current fee is and what the proposed fee is. As we looked at these, we did a regional comparison. We were well below our region in all of the areas. But as we determined where we wanted the fees to be, we obviously wanted to ensure fairness throughout the county, and we didn't want to go well above or remain well below. So we looked at the amount of work that goes into each of the services and kind of factored in kind of an hourly rate and included mileage, and that is how we determined most of the fees. With some of those, that would have set us kind of above where the region is, and so then we did kind of a match with what Becker County charges as part of our community health board. So I can list them off. I don't know if you need me to go through each line item of what they are.
Let's just highlight the ones that are changing.
Okay, so the ones that are changing would be our septic contractor permits. So our current fee is $150, and we're proposing to increase that to $225 to match what Becker County is charging. Our homeowner install inspection, we currently charge $300, and we're proposing to increase that to $460. And that would just be to cover the cost of our labor and mileage. Compliance inspections, we're currently charging $150. We're proposing to increase that to $225 to match Becker County. Water testing, sample collection, this is a service that we're not currently providing, but we would like to start doing it. The current market rate that other entities are charging is $175, and so we're just proposing to match what they're charging. We didn't want to go over or under. We didn't want to get flooded with all of those referrals, but it's a service that we're capable of providing, and so we thought it would make sense for us to offer that to the community. Regarding demolitions, so for small residential demolitions, so this would be like a shed, maybe a one-stall garage type size. We're currently charging $50 for all of our demolition fees. For small demolitions, we'd like to keep that at $50. For a large residential demolition, so for example, a house, we're currently charging $50. We'd like to increase that to $100. And then for a commercial demolition, that fee is currently set at $50, and we'd like to increase that to $310. And again, we factored in the average number of hours staff spend doing that service, and then added a little for mileage as well.
Questions from the board, Commissioner Campbell?
Thank you. On these fees, are we talking mostly residential in areas that fall outside of our incorporated cities?
For the septic fees, yes. For demolition, obviously, that is across the board, rural and urban.
So those demolition fees, for example, Moorhead depends on you to be involved with that?
Yes.
Okay, so they go through you and they don't have their own internal agency that does that?
No, typically, I will do the inspection and asbestos analysis. A lot of the commercial projects will require them to have a consultant do the asbestos analysis, and then I'll analyze that and oversee the abatement, make sure that's done. I'm not sure, am I answering you?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. And then I just want to point out the water testing. I think that's great. As we're working on this regional water project right now, and we have a report on that in our committee reports, but there's an awful lot of people who are being more and more interested now in having their water tested when they're learning about the arsenic and all those other things that are there. So when you do that, are you going to have the ability to do the complete testing or do you have, will you receive the samples and send them out and then get the information back?
Yeah, that's a great question, Commissioner Campbell. What that water testing fee entails is what we're seeing with lenders on real estate transactions is there's a very large uptick in requiring a third party to sample the water for real estate transactions. Back in the day when we did have our county water lab, that was something that we did regularly as part of our septic inspections. Was if we were going to be on the property for a septic inspection, we'd collect the water samples and we'd actually analyze the water ourselves in our own lab. Currently, as you know, we don't have our lab, but we have an agreement with R&B Laboratories in Detroit Lakes where residents can come in and get sample kits from us and then bring them back, and there's a courier service that will bring them. So what our plan would be is when someone is interested in us collecting these samples for them, we will bring them back to our own building here, and then that will be taken care of by the courier service for bringing them to the lab.
And so the proposed fee that you're establishing will cover all of those costs?
Yes. I should back up, not the costs for RMB. They would still be paying for the testing through RMB. We would be taking care of collecting the sample and the sample getting to the lab by the courier, and then they would still be responsible for the testing.
Commissioner Kavanaugh?
Yeah, just follow up on that. So for all these, I guess for all the tests I did, I always did them, but I understand third party, because I know for sure there was always suspicion of what well the water was coming out of, so I think that's good that you're doing that as a safeguard. So in the past, there'd never been a charge to go out and grab the water to get it to DL?
In the past, we had an $8 pickup fee.
Okay.
And I should add to this, this is not intended to be a regular practice that we're performing. The thought with this fee is the demand, maybe demand isn't the right word, but the need from lenders needing a third party to be sampling. And what we did with that fee was to look and see what other private sector places are charging for that, because we didn't want to be well below and then get flooded with additional things that we're doing with that. So.
Well, the one reason I did the collection, number one, I trust myself that I do it correctly. Number two, timeliness. And, that there's that risk, when things are happening, you got to be moving on a pretty quick pace. Does third party meet that obligation? Or,
Yes.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, when you're dealing with a 30-hour
Yeah.
hold time for the bacteria
Yeah.
samples, yes, it gets interesting to time when you're taking that sample and when to get it, yes.
Right, okay. And then on the other one, I just wanted to ask, as I view these increases, with my experience, I think they're in line. I guess I know you gave it great thought, but there is certainly a great amount of work to some of these systems, and I know even your new designs, maybe even a little more at times with soil types, so. Okay, very good.
Appreciate that.
Commissioner Ebinger?
Yeah, Commissioner Bear and I serve on the Partnership for Health. We reviewed the delegated environmental issues for increases last Friday. Yep. And it passed from the partnership. I think staff has done a good job at looking what's reasonable. One of the considerations on the delegated issues were inspections of restaurants, and staff took into effect what Fargo is charging. In a competitive market, we wanted to make sure that we stay competitive. A lot of thought's been put into this, so that being said, I'd like to approve the proposed increases to the non-delegated environmental health issues, and that would be effective June 1st.
We have
I'll
a
second.
motion offered from Commissioner Ebinger to approve as presented in the packet, a second from Commissioner Krabanoff. Any further discussion?
Just one question, Madam
Bear.
Chair. Homeowner install inspection, is that me personally putting in the tank or hiring a third party to put in a tank?
That would be a homeowner personally. So what we see with those, by code, by the state code and our county ordinance, if we have a septic system that needs to be installed and it's a pressurized system, anything at the surface or a mound system, a homeowner is not able to install those. If it's a gravity system or a holding tank, a homeowner is able to install those with a design from a licensed designer. What we wanted to do there is we are seeing such an uptick in shops that are going up that have a bathroom and so forth. We've kind of drawn a line in the sand where due to those numbers increasing the way that they are, if it's planned on the building permit for only a bathroom, we will allow for a holding tank, being that if we put in a full system and it's not getting enough use, those are gonna freeze up during the winter. So we're trying to recognize what's happening here and adjust with what's happening in the market with these shops. If there's living space involved, then we're looking at a 2-bedroom minimum size. But we did not want the holding tank charge for a homeowner to follow the other homeowner install charge, trying to remain fair and so.
Any other questions? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Carried. Thank you both.
Madam Chair?
You.
Is that good, Madam Chair?
Commissioner, or Steve?
Just wanted to thank Jessica in transitioning into her role. There's been many different things that we've asked her to look at as a commission. I know that balancing fees is something that this board takes very seriously in one, providing the context of paying for the services, in some cases provided, versus the impact it has on the citizens. But we do want to thank you for bringing these forward.
Thank you both. The next item 8 is the request approval to authorize the relocation of the Social Services Healthcare Financial Team to Suite 200 of the Family Service Center and discuss the corresponding fit-up charge.
Okay, good morning, Madam Chair, board members. Yes, today we're talking about Suite 200 up there on the second floor, Family Service Center. Just to do a little recap on the history of this past year, we had a current plan to move some public health employees into there, and I think between Jessica Mickelson and Quinn had gotten together and did some internal moves that would free up some of that space for public health. And so Suite 200 did become vacant, and what we did is we got together between Quinn and Jessica and I and started discussing what really would be an appropriate use and some future planning for their departments and their space needs. So I think what we're proposing is to move a division of Quinn's financial team up there, and he'll go explain that a little bit more. But if you were to ask us now, his financial team's not completely out of space. Everybody has a space. It is full. But this would be a demand that would pop up within the next year or two anyway. So we're proposing to move them up there, and this would be eligible for some reimbursement costs from the state. And that would also include the fit-up costs as well. So I can let Quinn kind of explain that a little bit more. And
Well, Joe did a good job with the history there. Again, just to be crystal clear, we don't absolutely have to do this today. However, this would be a huge space needs fix for, I would say, all of social services. This board was very gracious in allowing us to take over the public health defender space last year, which kind of solved our 5th and 4th floor problems. This plan would solve our first first floor problems as well. If you remember Michaela's PowerPoint from earlier, when she showed the graph of people, we would be moving the Mets healthcare team from downstairs up to second floor. What's nice about this, as Joe said, is this is eligible for FFP from the federal government, so we would receive 50% reimbursement for not only the building rent, but for the fit-up costs as well. It is important to note that because the healthcare team is, I'm gonna say, the right fit, we looked at a lot of different options as to who should move and what combination of staff would move if needed to cause as little disruption as possible, that it ended up being the healthcare side of things. If it was the SNAP and cash team, we would be looking at only 25% FFP based on the big, beautiful bill. So it is fortunate that it's the 50% because it's the healthcare side of it. To clarify the reimbursement as well, kind of how the federal financial participation works is it's not like we submit an invoice and then get 50% of the invoice back. What ends up happening is those expenses are reported as a part of our overall operational cost, and then we get a proportion of that back. So this is a very large revenue line in our budget, but it's never broken out by 50% for this staff or 50% for this invoice. It's just all thrown into what's called the cost pool, if that makes sense.
Okay. Questions from the board? Commissioner Bear.
One comment, Madam Chair. This went through the building committee and it was approved.
Additional comments?
Hearing none, I'll make a motion to authorize relocation of the healthcare finance team to Suite 200 in the Family Service Center.
Second.
We have a motion offered from Commissioner Bear, a second from Commissioner Ebinger. Was that? Okay. Additional discussion? Further discussion? All those,
That motion also has the associated fit-up costs and project.
okay, does that reflect the second? Okay. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 9 today, thanks Quinn. Item 9 today is a request approval to proceed with the power plant roof replacement project. Joe,
Yeah,
I assume this went to building committee as well?
Yep, we brought this to building committee, and it's the original roof from 1972. Just to give props to my maintenance staff that we've been patching this for 20 years. It's outlived its life. So what we did is we got 3 different quotes, and we're proposing to move ahead with the replacement this summer, and and this is actually on our capital plan as well, and we're gonna be using Fund 19, which has sufficient funds in there to do that. And so I'm asking to move forward with the low quote of A&R Roofing at $88,860.
Thank you for the presentation. I also want to say that the work of your staff has allowed us to push this to a point in where we didn't incur that enormous cost at a time in which we're doing some other significant input into cost of buildings.
Yep.
They do a great job of saving us money and figuring it out. So I know once it comes to us that it's likely you've reached the point of no return, maybe? Is
Yeah,
that fair to
exactly.
say?
You're right, Madam
Okay.
Chair. Yep.
Questions from the board?
Just one comment again.
Commissioner Bear.
This went through the building committee with approval. And with that, I'll make a motion to proceed with the power plant roof replacement project by accepting the low quote from A&R Roofing in the total amount to $88,860.
Okay, we have a motion offered to replace and proceed the project and
Second.
also to approve the bid from A&R Roofing in the amount of $88,860. A second offered from Commissioner Ebinger. Additional discussion. Additional discussion. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried. Thank you.
Thank you,
We
Board.
are- Thanks, Joe. We are a little behind, but I am going to go ahead and call for a 5-minute break briefly. Thank you. TV's on. Okay, we are back to address item 11 on the board agenda today is the Clay County Board of Commissioners consideration of a draft ordinance language for the 2026 deer hunting season.
Good
And
morning.
can I clarify something? Obviously, it came up during the public hearing of when the board can readdress something. Is that why it's titled the 2026 instead of leaving the date off of it?
During our April 7th meeting of the public hearing, at the end of that meeting, this board requested to have an ongoing discussion based on the information that was provided both in written form and oral form to move the decision or the discussion and decision until April 21st, and that's why it's dated that way.
Got it. All right.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. As this board, as I just stated, this board had a public hearing on April 7th. We had the opportunity to have many of our citizens here to provide their insight. We appreciate their willingness to take part in active government. We highlighted the state statute changes, the repeal of 97B.318 and subsequently the new state statute 97B.031 that made the state of Minnesota a rifle zone. Subdivision number 7 provided each county board the opportunity and the authority to limit firearms and hunting. This board had a work session this past year and at that point requested that we get county input on this topic. And so again, subsequently, we had the public hearing on the 7th. During that meeting, we talked about options for this commission to consider. We listed here, we'll go into a little bit more detail on the future slides. Our commission had a discussion and we had citizen input that was provided. Again, the public hearing was closed and it was the decision to move any further discussion to today to allow for additional time to reflect on the testimony and the both oral and written. Again, this is just a statute that we talked about that allows this board to adopt an ordinance that would adjust it based on the rifle statute portion in limiting the type of firearms that may be utilized. Again, the goal that this board had is to meet the deadline of May 5th to assure that with the adoption of any ordinance, if there were to be one, that the DNR could be notified so it could go into the hunting booklets. Again, option number 1 that we discussed, again as a reminder, was just to take no action. The statute that is in place, that came in place January 1st of this year, stated that the entirety of Clay County would allow for the use of rifles. And if that were the decision this board would take, there would be no ordinance required. Ordinance 2 that we discussed very briefly was a shotgun only, making the entire county shotgun only. Again, there wasn't a lot of traction that came with that discussion, but did want to include that in because it was part of the initial packet. Option 3, one of the things that this board talked about during our work session and subsequent public hearing was to make sure that we had verification from the Minnesota DNR on any enforcement questions. We received a letter from the Division of Enforcement at DNR that stated that they would be any ordinance that this county would provide that was different than the state statute, they would enforce any ordinance and encouraged us to put that verbiage in our ordinance if that would be helpful. So the carve-out areas that we initially spoke about here were where State Highway 9 would separate our county. On the right side or the east side of the county would be a rifle zone, and on the west side, rifles would not be a west side of State Highway 9 would not be allowed to be utilized. In addition, and this is what the map of that would look like. Again, the option 3 ordinance, again, we highlighted the yellow area, talked about the enforcement piece from the DNR that was included to ensure I guess an extra layer of asking for enforcement help from the Minnesota DNR. Option 3B, it kind of came as part of our discussion, I think, with the public hearing. We had that Clay County would essentially be split at State Highway 32 and I-94, against which was basically the same enforcement areas that we had in the 2025 deer hunting season. Rifles could be utilized east of Highway 32 and south of State Highway 34 to Barnesville, and rifles would not be able to be utilized through the remaining part of the county. And again, this is the map that we had at the public hearing and that highlighted where deer hunting, rifle hunting was allowed last year. Yes.
I think it's important to note too, you know, we presented this during the hearing, but this might get referenced today as part of the discussion. These are the zones in which DNR has, so the hunting zones 262, 269, that 666 is that chronic wasting disease zone up in the northeast corner. And then obviously you have the corner of 239 in the southeast portion of Clay County. So just so folks are aware, if we reference those four numbers, that's what that means.
And again, this gives you the comparison of the two carve-outs that were discussed at the public hearing, just for comparison. And then I think in talking with Mr. Melton after the public hearing, again, as a board, you have a decision. These are the things that we spoke about in our work sessions in the public hearing, but ultimately you could carve out a completely different enforcement area if those were your wishes. So again, we were fortunate to have many citizens that came to listen and also provide testimony. We had a total of 59 comments received. 26 were in person during the public hearing. We also allowed several weeks for our citizens to provide online submissions if they weren't able to make it or were not big fans of public speaking. And we received 33 of those online submissions. We cut that off right as the meeting started. We had, of those 59 testimonies, we had 20 that requested to move to all rifle. We had 30 that said continue with what's in place during the 2025 season at State Highway 32. We had 6 that said split it at State Highway 9. And we had 3 that were indifferent. They provided facts, no opinions, or just asked questions. And again, as we touched on earlier, this board requested that a decision be delayed for you guys to review all the testimony submitted till today. And so that brings us to our discussion this morning. With that, I'd yield for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Steve?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
So the page that you showed, the rifle, where the hunting zones, the hunting zones don't change, do they? According to the DNR?
That's correct. The hunting zones are the same.
I think it's important to note too that the zones may not change, but as you look in past maps, there have been times in which 265, for instance, north of us had 2 different qualifications for what was allowed, and so making sure they are able to accurately articulate that. Maybe 666 is a better example. So that one goes into Becker, Norman, and Clay, and at the Clay-Norman line north of 200, rifles were allowed in that, and then east. So, I mean, we are able to carve out, but I think in terms of communication for residents, how DNR produces the maps, just making sure that we're able to utilize that explanation as well as helpful.
So, Madam Chair, I do have another, to Commissioner Campbell's question, I do have another slide here that we created. We received kind of an overlay from the Minnesota DNR website. One kind of expands not the full zones, but it shows all of Clay County and then our neighbors to the north, east, and south. It also, the orange area, the orange lines are the breakouts of each of the deer, different deer sections for hunting. The black, of course, are the counties. And then it is broken down, if you see in dots versus diagonal. I know it's kind of hard to see in this map, but also kind of shows what decision our neighbors have made in the counties around us.
So the solid orange lines are the zone boundaries.
That's correct.
So that if you look at above Otter Tail in the bottom right corner, 239, that goes up just east of, follows the interstate and then goes east of Barnesville there and then up 32 to where that 241 line is. So, you know, it's important to see that.
Ryan, I do have a handout if it's more helpful for the board to see it.
Yes, Commissioner Campbell has a question.
So on this map right here, we see the zones 666. But you said that orange line, so what's in that yellow below that orange line? What zone is that?
Are you talking about this one here?
Yes,
That would be 269. So 269 would go around like that.
okay,
666 comes down, around, up.
okay. And do we know, so everything east of the county line on Becker side is rifle, is that correct?
Correct.
That is correct.
And how about Norman County?
Norman County is also rifle.
In that area, so that area of 666, that goes in Norman County is all rifle?
That's correct.
I'm sorry.
And that was the cutout on the northernmost boundary for the entire state, really. It's basically the Clay-Norman line, which was the shotgun zone to 32. Then once it cuts over at 34 to Barnesville, it basically head followed the interstate all the way down to Alex, and then there was some cutouts.
And then back in,
Commissioner Bear.
thank you, Madam Chair. In '07 and '08, 262 and 666 were also rifle for those 2 years. Just so everybody's aware of that.
Okay. Additional questions, discussion?
I mean, what I would like to see, Madam Chair, is to carve out the whole 666 into rifle, give it a year and see how it goes, and take input from our sheriff after next hunting season. Because to have 3 different counties provide in the same hunting zone, it'd make it a lot more simpler if the whole zone would be rifle, especially if we're moving it from 32 to number 9 on that map. So that's, I would like to see that at least go into rifle, if not the whole county.
Commissioner Krabanoff.
Are we just doing discussion of all views?
I think that's fair. We did not have discussion after the public hearing. This board has not had an opportunity to provide discussion.
Okay, for discussion here, I guess I'm very strongly in favor of leaving the line at 32. We heard overwhelming testimony in people in that Felton area. I've had countless phone calls that 9 is just too far west. We had testimony about the state land that's through the area, pleas from people, stories, people around the Felton area, and that were opposed to it. I think our numbers show that keeping it as is, in other words, which is number 3B, option 3B, is what the public has told us they want. I want to say, from my point of view, as a person who's hunted probably 50 seasons, hunted in other counties, other states, this is about, some are saying it's not safety, but I believe it is safety. I've heard bullets over my head. I've grown up hunting with a bolt action, so one shot. Of course, I have a magazine in there and shoot more. So that's what I have. But I have a lot of friends that shoot automatics, semi-automatics, and I see a lot of I don't know if I'm going to call it beginner, but people that don't aim very well with automatics.
Nobody's using it, Madam Chair. Nobody's using an automatic to deal.
Semi-automatic.
There you go.
Excuse me.
Thank you.
for
He
that.
did say semi-automatic in
Yeah.
the first part of his
Yeah,
comment.
sorry about that. And when, I just think there's a safety element there. I know what some of the testimony was, but when you start taking long-range rifles and blurting off 5 bullets because the thing's out 200 and some yards and you're just giving Hail Marys, I just don't think it's safe. My last point will be, it's about, this area has been established long enough to give people comfort of kind of what's around them, how it's around them, and I just think there will be a lot more comfort in knowing that there aren't new changes going on that may affect their comfort and safety while they hunt in these areas. That's what I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Krabanoff. Additional comments? Commissioner Campbell?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I mentioned after the hearing that a part of my decision was going to be significantly important regarding safety. Last week, our county board had a small cities meeting in Barnesville, and I took I-94 on my way there from here to Barnesville. And unlike any time before, I paid attention to tree lines where potential hunting could be happening along that area. And this, I'm talking about, mostly talking about 269. And the number of eligible areas for rifle hunting in that area and tree lines, even close to the interstate. We talk about safety in terms of we heard an awful lot from people who concerned about their homes and stray bullets maybe in their homes. And I started thinking, what about a stray bullet just on traffic that could be flowing on I-94? Now, I know there's the personal responsibility thing that's there, but people do miss. And when you miss, that bullet still goes somewhere. And the further it goes, the more unsafe it is, as far as I'm concerned. But I just wanted to point that out. It seems to me I certainly heard more testimony about keeping it the same, especially in that southern area. I don't remember, and maybe Commissioner Kravers remember more, but I do know there was some concern up in that Felton area too, but I do not support going rifle within the entire county. I can't support that. And I just want to point out that until the state made this change, in my time as commissioner, I had never had one call suggesting to me that we should change the boundaries of hunting. Not one, in my entire time on this board, until this issue came up. So in a way, I'm kind of, if it's not broke, why fix it? But I still want to hear from my fellow commissioners on their thoughts on it.
Thank you, Commissioner Campbell. Commissioner Ebinger?
Yes, in the 5 years that I've been on the commission, I have never had the kind of feedback that I've gotten on this issue. Not just people that showed up here, but emails, even a text asking me to call and talk to them. 4 of the people I responded to live east of 9. And all of them were unanimous in telling me that they did not want to have rifles. 3 of them were hunters. One is a farmer or rancher, he has cattle, who has state land abutting his property that he allows people into part of his property to hunt with shotguns. None of them wanted a rifle. I've had an opportunity in my career to repair the current Moorhead police range where we put the wall up. And then I commanded a police academy in Little Rock where we had 3 ranges, and we built them. And I'm familiar with ballistics, and I'm familiar with where the rounds go. I'm also aware that once we went to semi-automatic pistols, there were always people that did the spray and pray approach to hitting the target, where we'd have to talk to them about, you're responsible for where your rounds go. That's going to happen no matter how hard you try to have when people are out with a weapon that they can rapid fire and they want to hit a target. What compels me to be supportive of the 3B proposal is simply I've talked to people that are living and farming out there. And even if the ballistics and the data doesn't support it, their comfort on their own property needs to be taken into account. And as Commissioner Campbell just put it, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We've not had a big problem with hunters or bystanders being hit with loose rounds. And, you know, let's give it a shot in 666 and see how it goes in a year. I don't know if it would make any difference or not, but the people that are living there would feel unheard, and they would feel uncomfortable when they hear a rifle as opposed to a shotgun. And I think what's predominant in my decision-making is the people that live and work out there, what they're telling me. And I think they need to be heard. So I'm going to be supportive of the 3B on this.
Thank you, Commissioner Ebinger. Commissioner Bear?
I'm one that lives and works in 666. Those are my constituents up there. I've heard 2 to 1 in that zone specifically that they want to go to rifle. Being out and about in the community, 2 to 1 that they want that zone at least to go to rifle. And we had 26 people, if you figure the 20 that said all rifle, and 6 if you lump them into the east side of 9. So there's 26 people here that talked about wanting rifle. So it wasn't overwhelming support to stay shotgun. There was 30 people that said shotgun, 26 that said rifle. I would not say that's overwhelming support. I'd say that's pretty close to 50-50.
Additional questions, discussion?
I mean, we can always, Madam Chair,
Yes,
we can always
Commissioner
look
Bear.
at this again after a year or 2 and see how it goes.
So my understanding, Commissioner Bear, is based on how it is advertised, and my question earlier is because this is a draft ordinance for the 2026 deer season, it will have to be rediscussed moving forward. Is that fair?
That was my understanding.
And part of,
You would, yes.
yes, and part of the discussion from citizens were what would trigger the board to readdress this? What does it look like going forward? Is it every 3 years? Is it every 4 years? Is it annually? I think because of the way this has been drafted, it has to be next year,
But also, I would, Madam Chair, the statute itself required or discussed the idea of an annual review. So the statute stated if something new is put into place, meaning if you left it rifle, I don't think you'd have to review it every year.
correct.
But if you,
Nor do we need to act.
right, you wouldn't even need to act. But if you're acting and making something, then the statute has a review in there that's an annual review. So
Okay.
I believe you have.
Okay. Commissioner Campbell?
And does that annual review require public hearing?
That I'm not sure. I didn't look at that exact. I
believe that
I
it
thought it did, but I think
I
it.
believe it does, but I'm okay.
And again, it might be advisable after 1 year to have a public hearing again anyway, just to hear how it's gone, and I think that'd be advisable anyway.
Thank you. One of the things this board talked about at our work session and discussion with the attorney's office and the sheriff's department was that we really wanted to hear from residents on how this would affect them. That was something that counties weren't necessarily part of the dialogue at the Capitol when these hearings happened. No counties testified on any part of this. And we wanted to hear from residents on how, one, what their situation and perspective is, but how this would affect them. I have hunted in all of these zones, so I'm very familiar with all of the different topography and concerns of residents. I did hear fairly significant lines in different perspectives on where people felt like a change would be most appropriate. And I think it is our job, I certainly feel like it's my job, any decision I make must be in alignment with what our Chief Public Safety Officer's recommendation is. There are significant concerns for safety that have been raised from the Sheriff's Department, so I want the action of this board to take into account that perspective as well. It was clear that, yes, there was comments 6 specifically on the Highway 9 split. I also had comments that because people weren't aware of what the Highway 9 split was, had personal comments to me that were different. It is fairly even with what residents are wanting, and I will say I didn't hear overwhelming support for 262 to be rifle or 269 to be rifle. If you look at the comments, the public hearing sign-in, we were afforded to see where folks live. The responses that people reached out to me, it's pretty clear that if there was perspective on all rifle, the majority of those folks came from north of Highway 10 and on the eastern side of the county. I think that there was maybe concerns from some of those comments that the county board would talk about making the 32 and east all shotgun. I did not hear that from, or all rifle, or no, all shotgun. I didn't hear that from anyone. So I think there are different ways to interpret what the in-person testimony was with the online testimony. And based on the averages, my stance of where I would support it certainly would allow east of 9 in the 239 zone to continue to be rifle, 269 and 262 certainly to be shotgun only. And then I could probably, because there is a 2026 date on this, review what 666 looks like. But I don't want to minimize that even though there were comments for rifle, there were also residents that were active hunters that also did not want rifle in that zone too. So I think approaching this from a staggered position is taking into all of the voices and saying, listen, we heard you. We were glad to provide the opportunity. Here's where the majority of the comments lied. Certainly this discussion or action is not going to make everybody happy. But what I am really proud of is that we allowed residents the time and space to provide their perspectives. And then certainly it is the onus on us to take into account the variety of viewpoints and perspectives and figure out what makes the most sense for Clay County. Additional comments?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Bear.
I'll make a motion to have Zone 666 to go all rifle and 239 to stay rifle and Zone 262 and 269 to go shotgun.
So for clarification, my understanding is 666 has been 266 in the past as well. So I just want to make sure, because of the CWD, want to make sure everyone understands what that 666 would be.
Highway 9 down to Highway 10 on the northeast corner of the county.
And then the cutout for 239.
And the cutout for 239.
Okay. We have a motion to that effect.
I will second it for sake of conversation.
We have a second from Commissioner Campbell.
And again, I think of it from the standpoint of the number of conversations I've had with people similar to what Commissioner Ebinger was talking about. Certainly south of Highway 10, there was I think a strong sentiment towards needing to keep that shotgun. you know, other than east of 32. You know, I think the people even south of Highway 10 in that area east of 32 were, I didn't hear anybody saying, well, you should just eliminate rifle there. You know, I could support this motion just from the standpoint that, if we're including in there, or if we're under the understanding that this requires a 1-year review. Let's, you know, we could see what happens there. Because if anything, the majority of the people who did prefer, and this goes to what Commissioner Bear did say, is I think the people who wanted all rifle, most of them were from that 666 area.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Bear.
I'd like to amend my motion to have it expire January 1st. Can we do that? So then we have to deal with it?
Well, we have to no matter what.
All right.
I think
Yeah,
the statute requires it. I think you
And I
have to.
withdraw that
I don't
amendment.
even know if you have to do
The
that.
amendment is withdrawn.
Okay, I wouldn't support that either, because if it just goes away, then it goes back to the state, which would be all rifle. So I don't,
Yeah.
I wouldn't support that as my motion, but.
Additional discussion?
I mean, so what,
Commissioner Bear?
666 was rifle in 2007 and 2008. So that area has used rifles in the past, so it's not something that's going to be brand new for that zone. Just to clarify that.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Commissioner Kavanaugh?
I'll add, I'll be honest, as much as I don't like it, knowing it's 1 year, maybe I can live with that. And hearing just what you said, if there's been 2 years there already, I hope that would, when we have a next public hearing, hear a better voice, pro or not, to that specific area, even though I'm still bothered by it, but I can go with it for 1 year.
Commissioner Campbell?
And I do like the idea that we're making this decision also incorporating current zones that are established by the DNR.
I agree.
DNR.
Yeah.
You know, so we're not trying to split one zone.
Yeah.
You know, so I think it's worth a try. Is it any less safe in 666 than the others? I don't know. Commissioner Bear will find that out, I guess.
Yep.
Commissioner Ebinger?
In light of the fact that generally, if everybody leaves a little bit unhappy, it's good legislation, I'm willing to look at that, but the people that I've spoken to who have concerns about this, I want them to know it's just going to be 1 year. And, certainly hope that we don't find out that it's a problem the hard way. But if this is something that impacts on the quality of life and impacts on their concerns for the safety of themselves and their family and their homes, we will look at this in a year and we will have the public coming in and we will listen. We've listened this time. I'm going to yield to the fact that it's Commissioner Bear's district and we know he's well in touch with the people there, and I take him at his word. But if there are problems, they'll be addressed in a year. We'll see how this works.
Yeah.
So I'll join the consensus on that.
You know, I think it's important that we look at where the feedback is coming from. There were questions in regards to the Felton area. My hope is that we are addressing what those concerns are. Hopeful that some sort of compromise makes the most sense to move forward. This isn't something that is going to be thrilling to every party involved. But what I'm hopeful is that our community hears that this board really wanted to take into account all of the different perspectives and weigh what that is. I don't think sweeping decisions from St. Paul always make local folks happy either. And this is the product of a lot of conversation with a lot of people. Any other comments?
I think, Madam Chair, maybe I'll make a comment too, and just, with Steve and I, or the help of staff, we're putting together proposed wording within an ordinance just based on the work group side of things, the public comment, just some of those discussions. And so I think, as Steve stated earlier, this is exactly what the board can do. The board can make their ordinance, and so I expect, or I think everybody knows what they're voting on, but the wording itself is not currently captured in any written document.
Correct.
So you can adopt that and vote that today. We'll work on and make a document that defines those lines, so that I think it's all explained and understood, but we'll just need to do that at a later point.
To update the resolution language.
Correct.
And I'll go to Commissioner Campbell in a moment, but I think what is the most important out of that is we were able to capture and then articulate the concerns from residents, and we heard from folks at the public hearing differently than we thought we might hear from folks, and so making sure today that we're addressing that as noted, adding the zones as they were during the hunting season last year is helpful to identifying what the ordinance language would be, correct? Commissioner Campbell, did you have a?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out, going to Attorney Melton's comments, I think the area that we don't have the language in pertains to the section 1.1. That would have to be redefined according to the motion, right? Isn't that what we're talking about?
I think if you looked, option 3B had language in it that was capturing the Highway 32, and that language is actually what came from originally the statute from before, and define that down. But now we'll be able to change language to capture using 9 down to Highway 10 down to 32. I mean, we can change that language. So I think there's probably 2 paragraphs.
The 34 to 94 would be, that zigzag.
Yeah.
Right.
Correct. Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay.
And so I just was looking, and I had it up on my computer, and now it went black, but I think as Steve outlined, I think it's that yellow one has some language in it, and then also that 1.1 would probably need some language change. So we can work on that and wordsmith. Those are words that, once you vote and you're capturing what you've said here, I think everybody understands that. We just don't have a written out document yet for the actual ordinance. I just want to make sure that was clear to the board.
And does that the whereas after the highlighted, does that need to be as part of the fact-finding components, or can our discussion be?
Right, no, none of that. Again, all of this is words. They're really ultimately your words. They're
Right.
draft words that Mr. Larson and I worked on just to have capturing what's on there, so they can be whatever they are. I just wanted to make sure you're aware that as you vote, you're not actually. A lot of times in planning commission, it's very easy to
Right.
change that on the fly. That's really not here. We'll need to capture this after the
Right.
fact in a written document that you can then again look at and make sure that.
So clarification, we don't identify the ordinance as part of the motion, the ordinance number rather, since it hasn't been captured. I feel like not generally, all of us understand exactly what the motion and second and mapping means. But it does need to be reviewed from our attorney, and I think that's part of the piece. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Does that make sense?
And then
Yes,
the
Commissioner Campbell?
1.2, the enforcement, that's the same language no matter what we choose, right?
So, yeah.
Because that was also a topic of concern early on in our discussions, is how is this enforced? And so I think that that doesn't need to be changed. All right, very good.
Further questions? Last call. Any other discussion on the motion before us?
Madam Chair, I'm going to ask for a roll call vote.
Thank you. I have already asked for one. Thank you. Sarah?
Commissioner Krabenhoft,
Yes.
Commissioner Bear,
Yes.
Commissioner Mojo,
Yes.
Commissioner Campbell,
Yes.
Commissioner Ebinger.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously. Huge gratitude to folks for participating in that process, especially our administration and attorney's office and sheriff's department. It was really a triage with all of those entities to make sure that we had the most pressing information. I appreciate it. Okay, that passed unanimously. Item 12 then would be the committee reports. Commissioner Ebinger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Last week on Wednesday, the 15th, I attended the Cass Clay Interagency Council on Homelessness meeting. It's a quarterly meeting we have. Basically, it was some exercises among the entire group, looking at mapping out and prioritizing some of the specific activities that are going to take place once the commission is up and functioning. And we'll meet again in 3 months. They will have the results of that, and we'll begin putting together a work plan. On Thursday, the 16th, I attended the West Central Regional Juvenile Center meeting, the general business, reviewing our data on the usage of the facility, looking at, had a budget presentation, discussed the licensing inspection, which went very well for the center. Commissioner Campbell may have additional information. He chairs that group, and I'll leave him to get into some of the specifics. Later that day, I attended the Spring Rural Cities and County meeting. Had to leave early because I had another meeting back in town I had to get to, but it was a good turnout. It was good to see our staff presenting to the leaders of our rural city communities. As I said, I had to leave early. We had a Lake Agassiz Regional Library Board Executive Finance Committee meeting. Basically, the topic that we were covering was we had the normal financial report, but then we discussed the signatories, what's billed to the signatories every year, what formula we're going to use. There's been one for about 30 years there. It's based on everything from property values to numbers of people who hold a library card to numbers of books that are checked out. It was done way before we had the automated systems we have now, where we can track a lot of those things closer. But the discussion has taken us to where we feel like it should be based on operating costs. When we look at the operating costs of the signatories of the library, there is some disparity. Becker County, Clay County, Detroit Lakes are all paying in excess, not huge amount, but single digit to 10 or 12% more than their operating costs, whereas some other signatories are much lower. In looking at, and they're usually the smaller communities, and looking at what we can do on that, right now the discussion among this committee is we'll bring before the board some proposals, again, based on operating costs, and shifting to a new formula on a 1 to 4 year basis, so the smaller signatories aren't hit with the entire increase all in 1 year. And that is a work in progress, but I think we've made some good headway on it. Let's see. Friday, the 17th, myself and Commissioner Bear attended the Public Health Partnership for Health meeting. Had our usual financial review and grants review. I do want to just give a shout out to our staff. Brandon Nelson has done a very good job, and Jessica is the new director over at Public Health. They've done a really good job of keeping us informed, bringing the data on these grants, what's going on, what the transition has been since we've gone to 2 counties versus 4. Just a good presentation on that. We also had a legislative update from Jessica Mickelson. Shack update, and we got into the environmental health issues, and as discussed earlier today in the meeting, we discussed the delegated programs or agreements, which was voted on and passed by the Public Health Board, and the proposed non-delegated activities we voted on today. Let's see. Saturday, the 18th, as part of the Lake Agassiz Regional Library Board, I was at the ribbon cutting for the new Moorhead Library. If you haven't been there, you need to go look. That is an amazing facility. There's great opportunity for small to fairly good-sized meeting rooms there for people who want to have meetings for the public. Just a real good day. It was just the culmination of a good program. So that was something that we can look forward to as being part of the downtown Moorhead rebirth. And that completes my reports.
Thank you, Commissioner Ebinger. Commissioner Krabbenoft?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Going back to the Wednesday, the 15th, I had a Historical and Cultural Society Finance Committee. We've been doing kind of a deep dive as a group on our revenue sources, and main things that are talked about is areas and effectiveness toward working toward donations, membership, and admissions. All three of those lay apart. Ebbs and flows over the years, but how can we do something in focusing on marketing in different ways to make those more sustainable and growing. So that was the main focus of that. The following day, well, then later that day, I drove to St. Paul, where Thursday I was at the Capitol all day, along with the diversion, Jason Benson with the diversion, some staff from Moorhead, Lisa Bodie, and also mainly led by Chamber Policy Kale. But the Chamber and then our lobbyist Haley was along with us, who had set up some meetings. Main things there with the DA was trying to advocate for a match they could have with the of some funds, federal funds, that they could get to try to have a match with the state in the way of leveraging, turning $32 million and hopefully with a match have 64, help take care of some of their needs. With us on the PRTF non-secure, two conversations furthered on that regard. And Jenny, Commissioner Mojo will give a little more on that, I think, as she was there 2 days prior to me coming. And so a lot of good groundwork has really been executed and coming to fruition. Hopefully we have a bonding bill, and hopefully we do well with it. So it's a wait and see, but some of the things are moving forward that we didn't in our favor that we didn't see even the week before. Let's see. Oh, and that day while I was gone, just a heads up, I'm on the West Central Initiative Economic Development Board, and while I was away that day and not making the meeting, they elected me chairman.
Lucky.
Good.
And I'd been the vice chair, but I had to laugh. So anyway, I look forward to that opportunity to work with them. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Crownout. You also attended the watershed. Did you highlight?
Oh, I did, didn't I? Thank you. I didn't think.
I can
Do you
report.
have your notes?
I can
Okay,
report.
thank you for that.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yep, Commissioner Campbell.
Thank you. On Tuesday, April 14th, we had our Personnel Issues Committee meeting. We originally had 10 items on that. One was removed. 8 of those moved forward, with most of them on consent this morning, which we all acted on. Though there was one item, a Clay County compensation system discussion, that was delayed for so we could get the full PIC committee there to discuss that. And then we asked for more information on, today we approved the non-delegated environmental fees. We also have the MDH delegated environmental health fees that we asked for more information on at PIC, so there was no recommendation on that, and we've asked for more information regarding that, and I understand that maybe you guys in your public health meeting did act on that. Yeah. But that's something that we'll have discussion on here, I'm assuming, coming forward. Then I had, that same day then, we did have a Teams meeting with our West Central Regional Water Group, and that was in preparation for the hearing that was to take place on the 17th, which I'll comment on in a few minutes. Then on the April 16th, we had our West Central Regional Juvenile Center meeting. We went through our current statistics through 2026, and then we also looked at our 2025 actual numbers, budget numbers, and our 2026 budget to date. And we got a report on the licensing inspection, which he said is always interesting, but I think it went well for us here. And in July, we will be working on our 2027 budget. That afternoon, we had our Rural Cities and Counties meeting. I think that's something that's always worthwhile, meeting with these groups. Not only is it good for us to know what things they're working on, but in ways that maybe some of our policies might impact what they do. I think is important to be able to have that understanding of what they want. It also allows us to, and our staff, to talk to them about important issues that it impacts them. I think about Mark Sloan, and he talking about, something coming forward about census information and how those cities get letters, but how the county can be there to assist. I think that was good. Jill gave some important information about the new ways of assessing that are done. So these things, I think it's important for our small community leaders to hear and understand some of those things that are going on that maybe they might not be privy to outside of having that meeting. So, and I do want to thank all of those community leaders for joining us in that discussion. Then Friday the 17th in the morning, Commissioner Bear and I met with our West Central Regional Group again, getting our final preparations for what was the second public hearing with the district court in the establishment of our West Central Regional Water District. And so we had that meeting. There was a full courtroom and an additional courtroom that had some overflow. There was also a courtroom in Polk County that had some attendance. There was a lot of, I mean, I just want to give a hats off to the council and to our A2 engineer. They did, Stephen Slick, they did a tremendous job in answering a lot of questions that the citizens had. And they were well-informed, and I just thought it was great. I guess we went in there maybe not expecting an immediate decision from the judge. We were thinking that maybe it would take a couple weeks. That presentation was so good, and I think the impact that the citizens themselves showed through that public hearing process, that our project was ordered that day. And I think that's a testament to the good work and the fine detail that over these years have allowed this to go forward. And it certainly won't be in my lifetime, but there's going to come a point in time when there's going to be a lot of rural citizens who are going to be very thankful for what's been done to date to prepare them to be able to have clean drinking water throughout Clay County, and that's the goal. So that was an excellent day. And I just want to make sure, I do believe that concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Campbell. Commissioner Bear.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On Tuesday afternoon last week, we had a West Central Regional Water District planning meeting to discuss the plan for Friday. Commissioner Campbell was also there. I don't know if he reported on that, but he was also there. We went through the whole slideshow that Tuesday to make sure we were all ready for Friday. And then that evening, I went up to Craigness Township and gave them an update on the Water District and Shotgun Rifle Zone, which both have already been determined. And then on Thursday morning, I headed down to St. Paul to testify again in front of the Capital Investments for Senate File 4457. We were down there, testified on that in the afternoon. And then we also met with Senator Kupek and Representatives Joy and Gander, as well as Senator Johnson. So that went very well. And then Friday morning, I was back up in Moorhead for Partnership for Health, where Commissioner Ebinger gave a great update there. And just one thing on the delegated and non-delegated agreements. So we agreed at this board today for the non-delegated agreements with public health. The delegated agreements are specifically for Partnership to Health to decide on. And what we decided there on, so that won't come to the full board. What we decided there on was to move our base fees up to MDH levels and then keep all our other fees to where we've had them currently. So those are not being raised. Our base fees are being raised, but all the other fees underneath the base rates are staying the same. And then on that late morning, early afternoon, I was also at the West Central Regional Water District's public hearing, and yeah, I couldn't say, there's great turnout there, and yeah, our staff with AE2S and council did a tremendous job. I don't think the engineer, Stephen Slick, missed one question. I think he answered every question that was asked of him, and we lasted about 3 hours in that public hearing, and then at the end of it, yeah, the judge signed off on the project, so it was a great turnout and exactly what we wanted to happen, so. That is all my reports, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Bear. I have 2 weeks of reporting. I apologize for missing last week. Thank you, Commissioner Kravinoff, for taking over as I was testifying at the same time as the board meeting. Let's see. Going back 2 weeks, I attended the Chamber Leadership Discussion Strategy as a region. I would like to schedule coming out of that before we get into our budget cycle. I think in talking with Commissioner Ebinger and Deb White, who serves on the Greater Fargo-Moorhead EDC with Commissioner Ebinger. I'd like to schedule a meeting between those of us that sit on the chamber discussion and EDC discussion with the city of Moorhead. I think we need to strategize how we are discussing resources and where we're allocating resources. So do you want to reach out to Dan Molly and see if he can't? I think Deb White and not sure who the economic other one is. It might be more, but particularly as we talk about how Clay County's shifted some fundings between the chamber and the EDC, wanting to make sure all of our Minnesota entities are on board there. The next day, I attended that day still, attended the public policy discussion with the chamber's chair, Rich Slagle, really helpful discussion as we move forward, and then the Winthrop Weinstein strategy meeting. I'm just going to say, in the last 2 weeks, the amount of meetings that we have got because of their work is unbelievable. I would never have been able to be part of some of these dialogues without the leadership of Haley and Tom. That day had the April public policy discussion, really an update more on what is happening at the federal piece and how we continue to advocate for changes there. Attended the non-secure detention working group. Huge thanking of James and Quinn, who attend those every single week and really are the data getters for us as we tell the story at the Capitol. I traveled to St. Paul that day and had the opportunity to meet with Representative Allen, Duran, Henselman, Gilman, Backer, Murphy, and Perryman. Those are all individual meetings in a time when it's a little crazy to meet with folks. And out of that, I'm happy to report that we now have new co-authors in Representative Backer, Representative Burkle, Representative Gilman, and Representative Walgamot. Those are bipartisan co-authors and folks representing all the way northern Minnesota to the metro to southern Minnesota. Great job to all of you for your help. And then had an opportunity to meet with Representative Joy and Keeler and how we strategize that lift. That afternoon, I attended the NACO Public Policy Lands Discussion Meeting. The next day, I attended the Big Four meeting that's is serving on AMC Executive Committee. That's the Association of Townships, the League of Minnesota Cities, and the School Board Association. We are really bolstering our message. So many of us have the same concerns at the Capitol. Happy to be part of that dialogue. I attended the AMC Executive Committee meeting afterwards. And then Monday, attended the Barnesville City Council meeting. Good feedback from folks on what the item 11 was on our agenda today. But the main reason I went there is many of you know Jerry Reap. Jerry's worked for the city for a long, long time and now is retiring after 46 years with the city. Gratitude to her for all of her work. She has a retirement party. I'll make sure and forward that to Steve to send out. After that, I attended the Buffalo Red River Watershed District meeting with Commissioner Krabenoft. We had a great update from River Keepers on all of the work that they are doing. Great to see how they are utilizing resources, but really sharing to do the school district day work camps. That's great. And then talked about the reseeding the red. And one of the board members from the CW Co-op came forward. A new concern has come forward with the ability to license or insure their fertilizer facility north of Wolverton. So we did request that they work with the watershed to come forward to the MCCJPA meeting this week, just to kind of talk about what, if there's new information, how can we provide data to help it to where they will get insured, or what the proper mechanism of addressing their concern is. Tuesday morning, I traveled to St. Paul again to provide testimony at the capital investment side of the House committee on the Maxis funding component that we talked about a few times today. Was asked by Representative Frederick, who's the vice chair of the capital investment committee, to provide insight. He's also been a big champion of our non-secure detention project. Appreciate that opportunity. I did attend the PIC committee. I did need to sign off, so we'll have some continued dialogue. I appreciate this board supporting the issues that came before PIC. I was asked to attend or testify in front of the Children, Youth, and Families Committee on the challenges that counties are facing in implementing the act. There are, I think, some agreements. The bill that I testified on was in full alignment with what the Senate's passed unanimously. the discussion at the House side did have some challenges, but I really appreciate Representative Keeler for working with her caucus to try to see our side of perspective and try to implement some types of pieces to delay, to align, to have systems that communicate to each other. That afternoon, I had meetings with Senator Utke, Senator Rasmussen, Senator Jasinski, Senator Lang, Senator Johnson, and Senator Kupek on our project. Senator Kupek is working hard to get Senator Hoffman's signing of our facility. He's been such a champion for that work. And then the next day, I testified in front of the Senate Health and Human Services Finance Committee. That specifically is on the Wickland vehicle bill, omnibus bill, in regards to the modernization SNAP and Medicaid components that they're addressing for us. That administratively, we heard today on what administration is costing some of these programs, what they're costing us locally, just making sure that we have the systems to be able to do the work. I mean, it's really kind of simple. But then later in the day, I did have the great opportunity. I've never met with her in St. Paul to meet with Speaker Lisa Demuth and talk about our projects, talk about the needs. Also, given the fact that we are seeing some significant challenges in our business community, was able to raise some of the realities that we are seeing in our business community locally. It is really concerning to see as many businesses as we're seeing closing just in a matter of months. Hopeful that there can be some thoughtfulness that goes into that challenge at the Capitol. That afternoon, I attended the NACO Rural Action Committee meeting that really takes we're classified as a rural county. I'm grateful to have the representation in Washington, D.C. on that piece. And then Friday was able to Then I also Thursday attended the Rural Cities meeting. One, huge gratitude to Barnesville for hosting that. Two, thank you to all of the departments from the county that were there. I think it's really important that we show up in our cities to answer questions if cities have confusion or questions on implementation or collaboration and communication. We had Hitterdall and Glendon and Dilworth and Hawley and Barnesville and Sabin represented. Really hopeful that folks still see the value in that. There are so many issues that we have. Things come up. Did I miss somebody? So many issues come up. We need to leverage shared resources and collaborate together. Thankful for folks that continue to see value in that. Friday, I attended the West Central Regional Water District final hearing. I did provide testimony on that. Thank you to the both of you for all the work that you've done to get us to this point. I know there's been lots of strategy and discussions, and really answering questions is the most important piece. Thank you for that. Sunday, I attended a press conference on the invitation of Senator Kupek to discuss the need for bonding and how kicking the can down the road continues to cost all of us substantial amounts of money. Dilworth Fire Department was there, the city of Dilworth, the city of Detroit Lakes, the city of Moorhead, and then Clay County. And then my last piece is more of excitement. Last week, thank you to Commissioner Bear and Commissioner Krabnoff for also driving down to the Capitol. We are hearing from representatives and senators, Clay County is really invested in a lot of these issues. Thank you for providing your testimony. We don't always hear from folks, so I know it's a challenge for you guys, for all of us to get down there. Thanks for making it important. But two, we had some outreach from Jenny Nash, who's the committee administrator for the Capital Investment Committee, on some refined numbers on our project, and our lobbyists say that is a very great sign. So we'll continue to beat down the doors to talk about how this is something that counties are all dealing with, and it's a way to actually save us money, shockingly. So thanks for all of you, for all of your help with the work we're doing. That concludes my reports.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have 2 weeks. I'll only touch on the things that haven't been covered either today or last week. On the 8th, we had management meeting. We talked about the upcoming retreat on that'll be this Friday. We talked about legislative priorities and the impacts that they're hearing on their own departments. We had updates from IT and also human resources. On the 9th, met with Brandon Lunick and Dan Molly on some shared areas of interest. On the 16th, had a pre-MCC JPA meeting. Our meeting for that will be this week. And that day, as Commissioner Mojo highlighted, worked on getting additional information to Ms. Nash on our non-secure detention. On the 16th, participated in the Spring County Rural City meeting. Again, thanks for Barnesville for hosting. Again, we're looking for a host for fall. So if anyone's interested in those communities, let us know. Participated in non-secure detention meeting on the 17th, and also attended the West Central Regional Water District hearing. Again, just want to reiterate the great work that was done. Hardly any questions after the presentation, and Mr. Slick and council did a great job answering any additional questions. Participated yesterday at the AMC Legislative Zoom, heard updates from all of the different AMC staff members. Just a reminder, this week we have our Clay County Commission HRA Commission meeting this afternoon. Earth Day press conference tomorrow at the Resource Recovery Center at 10 a.m. And again, our intergovernmental retreat this Friday at 8:30. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. And to clarify, that press conference was advertised, so all members of this board can attend, correct? Okay. Brian, do you have anything to add? Sarah? Did you raise your hand?
Yeah, just one
Commissioner
thing.
Campbell.
I know that Commissioner Brer talked about the delegated agreements, and that was done through the joint with Becker. I just want to say that I have some concerns with those numbers, and I expressed them in PIC. You know, going to the MDH, Minnesota Department of Health's numbers, they established numbers, and I don't know if they're always taken into consideration border cities issues. When we have 50 and 100%, they're small. They're small, but they're still impactful. I just read again last night that we have another restaurant closing in Moorhead. And I guess at some point I have to start asking, you know, we have to start asking, what are we doing here? These fees, now obviously they're important, and a lot of times we want these fees to cover the cost. But in this particular instance, what we're also dealing, you know, in the terms of restaurants, when we have these inspection fees and all these other license fees that we do them on behalf of the public as well, to make sure that these businesses, you know, are compliant and are clean and safe. If you ever watch the movie Bar Rescue, and you see some of the filthy, pathetic things that go on in restaurants. Well, we never want to get restaurants to be to that extent. And so not all of what we should be charging should be the responsibility of the small business to pay, because it's for the benefit also of every citizen who goes into those establishments. I'm concerned about the fee increases, and I just want to express that, because we don't, you know, it's one of those things that we apparently don't talk about here at the board anymore. I think we used to. We used to at least talk about them. And we don't anymore, and I find that troublesome. So I just want to raise that issue. And
If I could just respond to that, Commissioner.
Commissioner Ebinger.
The staff of Public Health made an effort to find out what the costs were in Fargo and either match them or go below them as far as restaurant inspection and the inspections. They only did the base. They didn't get into the details of the small fees that we charge. The base is the only thing that was adjusted, and that was to adjust it after many years. And where we have been investing taxpayers' money out of the levy to pay for these instead of letting the people who are using these facilities, premises, whatever's being inspected, carrying their own weight. So I understand your concern on that, and I indicated earlier that we are aware that we're border city and we've got to compete with people across the river. I think some of the issues we have are probably the family leave issues and the other things that we're dealing with. I don't think I think staff came in aware of that, and they don't want to add to the problems.
Commissioner,
There's no
I'll
question.
let you respond to that point, and then Commissioner Baird did have his hand up.
There's no question that there's multitude of reasons why, some of our small businesses are hurting, and some of them and I can only talk about in Moorhead and Clay County, when we see businesses closing, there can be a multitude of reasons. A lot of it can be, what are the state stipulations and requirements and that mandates that come down on businesses. What I'm talking about is what we can control to help reduce that burden so that these businesses can stay open.
Okay.
And that's all I'm saying, so.
Commissioner Baer.
With the bump in the base fees still does not cover the expense what we're putting into that employee to go around and check this. So we're still under the cost of that employee, and we are under North Fargo, you could just say Fargo. We're still cheaper than Fargo on those base fees, and we did not touch the smaller fees in there.
Right.
We did have a lot of dialogue there at that meeting on this. It wasn't just raise fees and just move on. There was a lot of dialogue, and everybody was understood that what we're doing here also dictates if someone does move to Fargo, if it is cheaper on fees over there. So it wasn't just raise fees and let's move on. There was a lot of dialogue at that meeting.
I do appreciate that. That's a continued dialogue that we've talked about when it comes to planning and zoning pieces. I know you've had that dialogue, and even though the fees might be comparable to what we're seeing across the river, there are so many other things that really make that piece kind of a moot point. But I appreciate that we'll continue to work on it. Anything else? If not, we have our EDA discussion later, the press conference tomorrow, and then we are scheduled to meet next Tuesday. We are adjourned.